1 minute. Good evening, everyone. My name is Titi Mutanga. I am the founder of the Global Food Business Network, and they say they say if you want to change the world, that you change how the world is fed. Today, we're not going to be talking about jobs. We're not talking about architects of human survival, but we are going to dive into the topic on food science and the career in the century. What is food science? Most of you wonder. So many times people think food science is all about cooking. Food science is all about experimenting with food. Some people don't really understand the fundamentals of what food science is all about. And today I'm very excited to have a wide panel of food scientists, people that have made it in the food industry and people that people look up to, who are going to share their journeys. We're going to share how they've managed to navigate their careers in the food science sector. Let's delve in and sorry, I'll kindly ask each of our speakers to introduce themselves before we start. I'll start with Professor Macheka.
All right, good evening, everyone, and welcome. So my name is Leslie Macheka. I work for Marondra University of Agricultural Science and Technology in Zimbabwe, where I am the Executive Director for Innovation, Industrialization, and Enterprise Development. But I am a food scientist, but that's my qualification. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Professor Leslie Macheka, for that introduction. We also have Miss Lizzie in the house. Miss Lizzie, could you please kindly introduce yourself to our audience?
Hello, everyone. Good evening. My name is Lizzie Ogot. I am Kenyan and I have a bachelor's degree in food science and technology. And I have a crazy passion for dairy. Currently, I'm based in Denmark. I'm working on a brief agriculture internship, but I am very, very actively involved in spreading the news of food safety on LinkedIn.
Thank you so much, Lizzie, for that. We also have Yemi. Yemi is based in the UK and he's actually at work. That is how some of the food scientists manage and navigate in their daily lives. Yemi, please tell us about a bit about yourself.
Thank you very much, Sisi. My name is Yemi Bamisai. I'm a food safety and quality, I would say professional, with over 20 years of experience in the food industry. And my background is general agriculture. Then I progressed into food technology. I'm a hands-on person, so it cuts across mainly fresh produce, bakery, then dairy as well. I'm currently in dry or ambient products, which is rice, that I'm working on currently. I'm glad to be here. Thank you for the privilege. All protocols observed.
Thank you very much. Just a quick reminder to everyone, please keep the chat box interactive. Throw your questions because at the end we're going to have a Q&A session that the panelists are going to respond to all the questions that you have regarding food science. I'm going to start with you, Professor Macheka. We want to start from the top. From an academic and strategic lens, what is a must-have career for the world's future? And for the people or the students that are watching, what are the actual doors that open if one studies food science?
All right, thank you for this interesting question. So I'll start with the second part of the question, as in what opportunities are available. I'll answer that by sort of starting giving my background, the journey to where I am now. So I did a BSc Biological Sciences honors degree. That's what my BSc. So I was in Biological Sciences. Then my first job was in quality assurance at a company called Grain Marketing Board in Zimbabwe, which is sort of the main buyer and processor of grains. So I was in quality assurance department. Already I started applying biological sciences, microbiology, and everything. So you'll find that food science involves a lot of competencies. You need microbiology, you need food chemistry, and the various courses that you need. So from quality assurance at Grain Marketing Board, that's when went for my master's in food quality management, and later on a PhD in food quality management. But with that expertise in food, my PhD study was on post-harvest losses, along the value chain. So I'm just showing the diversity of what you can do with food science. Then from there, I went into lectureship, into academia, lecturing. I was lecturing food safety management, food quality management. So, food-related courses, food safety and food quality. Then from there, I went into innovation and industrialization. So you see, with food science, you are flexible. There are a lot of career paths that you can follow. Because we're saying food science sits at the intersection of food security, public health. Now we have climate change and all these things. So as a food scientist, you can also go into the public health domain. Most of my research now is on public health and nutrition, because we are saying, for example, if I give an example, we are promoting healthy foods. And there's a lot of biofortification, industrial fortification. But even plant breeders, as they are breeding new varieties that are nutritious, they need an element of food science. Is that
Yes.
food component stable? If it's maybe you want to do iron fortification, but is it stable within the environment you want to put it? So you find in food science, you can go into quality assurance, new product development, even innovation, nutrition and public health also, because you come in with an expertise in terms of food science. Yes, they want to eat healthy, but when you come to food, what is healthy? You see, then there's the issue of policy, regulation, food safety. Then you are into the regulatory domain. How do you regulate food additives? Which ones are good? Now we are talking a lot of non-communicable diseases, and food is also one big element that is being blamed in terms of some of obesity and all these issues. So you find you are flexible to go into various domains. I have colleagues that I learned with in food science now who are into either food industry, some are in regulatory, some are in nutrition, and various other sectors. So for anyone who is aiming or willing to get into this, maybe wanting to do a BSc, Masters in Food Science, there are a lot of job opportunities. You are flexible. You are not only restricted to even working with the food itself, but you are even at policy level. Some are, into climate change also, because climate change and food. Also nowadays, climate change is a topical issue. So my other area of research is also climate change. How do climate change impact food systems, what we are eating? Culture. How do culture affect food? So you have some work we are doing on food as intangible cultural heritage. So in our tradition in Africa, there are a lot of issues that are attached to cultural issues that are attached to food. For example, food taboos. Sometimes women are not allowed to eat some certain foods because of the traditional taboos. So you see, food anchors a lot of other career paths or domains. So yeah, I will urge those who are willing to get into this sector on food. It's an important one because it anchors a lot of other thematic areas, domains, or career paths. I think in brief, I can say that.
Thank you so much, Professor Leslie. I tapped into the fact that there's a lot of culture that is involved with food. You don't have to be working with food for you to be a food. You're not a food scientist because you are working with food all the time. You can be a food scientist that is working with the population. You can be a food scientist working with the health sector. Talking about the health sector, in our panel, we've got Yemi, who's joining us from the UK, and he's been working with food, but also with the health department or the health sector. Yemi, do you mind just unpacking for us? How did you end up in this role, and how did your journey in food science really start?
Okay, good. Thank you very much for the opportunity. I'm going to start from the beginning. Growing up in Nigeria, one of the dream and aspiration is that, okay, what course would I love to study? Your uncles would like you to study medicine or be an engineer
Yes,
or
yes,
be a lawyer. So, but I don't like
agreed.
hospitals. One of my uncles told me, Yemi, if you study medicine, after 3 months, you're going to buy a car. I said, really? So while I sat down one day, I was thinking, I said, okay, but if you go to the hospital, the doctor is going to tell you before you take any medication, you need to eat first. So I felt, okay, food
Mhm.
is more important than the
Correct.
medication. So that gave me, in secondary school, okay,
Wow.
I knew right from onset, I'm going to study agriculture. So I studied general agriculture from the University of Ilorin. And I worked as an agric officer in Nigeria for 3 years. So one thing I observed while working in Nigeria was the fact that during the harvest season, we have bounty harvest. We have anything you're going to talk about during the mango season, we have mangoes in surplus. During the maize in surplus. During any other product you talk about is in surplus. But for 3 years, I observed I struggled because the yams as well, potatoes, I couldn't or we couldn't really preserve the products really well. So meaning the wastage was really very high back home. So that really prompted me to now come abroad to study food technology. So I now did my master's in food technology at Teesside Uni. And I think, fortunately for me, in the Tees Valley, which is northeast of England, you have more than 250, I would say, food industries of food factories. So it was a lot easier for me to just leave school and easily go into the food sector, which was really which gave me the opportunity. So it's going to be 20 years right now that I've been working in different, aspects or subsectors of the food industry. And I've worked through the hospitality. I've gone through fresh produce mainly of about 13 years. Worked with growers in Africa,
Mhm.
especially Kenya, Gambia, Senegal, Cote d'Ivoire, Ghana, Zimbabwe as well for lots of products from that part of
Wow.
the world. So I've kept contact, with my African, colleagues and kinsmen right from onset. So back to your question, I still work in the food industry. One thing I would say is that because LT Foods is what we do is we pack rice mainly. So we mill rice, we clean the rice, and also we pack the rice before we send into the UK retailers. So from if you look at it from a public health perspective, and because we work with the councils in the UK, so I work with we call them environmental health officers. So they work with us. They will normally come to our factories to see what we run. So, and this is where our food safety plan will come into play. So usually, which I know food scientists will understand, okay, what's your food safety plan? What's your hazard analysis and critical control point is called. So that's what we're going to, put in place to make sure that every hazard at each process step we identify. Then once we identify the hazards, what are the control measures we put in place? But before we even think about control measures and all of that, one thing we would put in place is, lay a solid foundation which are going to lay on
Mhm.
prerequisite programs. That's what it is. Now, talking about health right now. Now, you are what you eat. Um, Now, if you see the rate at which you have the issue with obesity in the world right now is outrageous. Is because of the kind of food that we eat. You understand? When you eat too much processed food, you understand, and it adds up, especially in this part of the world the level of obesity in Europe and I would say in the Western world is something else. Now we have a problem with child obesity as well. Now because you see them eat cereal with a lot of sugar content, a lot of fat content in the food as well, and which all adds weight to them. Now they are not active. Usually they will go to school, sit in front of TV. That's a sort of life and a lot of sedentary life as well. But the health benefit or from a food science perspective is from a science perspective, you will know the content of what you are eating. For instance, as a food scientist, you know the mixture for a balanced diet. You know the protein that you need to have, the carbohydrate, the level of sugar that you need to have, carbohydrate that you need to have, the fat, and all of the, nutritional qualities of the food that you need to have to, ensure you have a balanced diet. Now, we work with the EHO, as I would say. So what they would say mainly is that because also the food we supply, for instance, aflatoxins can cause cancer. Now, if I draw into it right now, a lot of food microbiological issues as well that we need to control. One thing I'm going to talk about, because if you break down the microbiological hazards that we have, things like Salmonella, E. coli, and also like Listeria as well. All these are part or can, contaminate the food as well. These are the sort of things we look at from an health perspective. So, and therefore we look at those, indicators. For instance, we have food safety indicators, we have hygiene indicators. Now they have different levels of risk. However, we work with different food categories and different classes of food to make sure that we'll control and reduce the level of contamination and the hazard issues with the food to the barest minimum so that we'll be able to supply safe food. So from a public health perspective, I needed to look at it from a food microbiological perspective, because part of your modules will be in food science will be, food preservation, food processing. You talk about food processing, you talk about food chemistry, you understand? And a lot of issues are things that you're going to be talking about. Then you talk about food safety and food quality. So food safety and food quality is what really relates to the public health that you're going to be thinking about. Now, in the public health space, we have a lot of opportunities because people that study food science can work as, environmental officers here in the UK. They sit on different boards of public health, organizations as well to advise, and to support them. So the opportunity is enormous from a health perspective. I hope I've been able to answer your question.
Yes, you have. You've actually unpacked all the opportunities that are in the health side of things, but still food science, because many of us who ended up food scientists, or I should speak for myself, we were supposed to be medical practitioners. Me and you, but now there are so many other opportunities where you can contribute to people's health, but you are not a medical practitioner.
Yeah.
We need to educate our parents. We need to educate our brothers and sisters to saying a science subject doesn't automatically mean you have to be a medical doctor, you have to be a pharmacist. Now, let's talk about the elephant in the room. Most of us here think food science, quality control is just clipboards, cold rooms, checklist, and basically that's boring. So I'm going to ask Lizzie. Lizzie, can you share your experience in quality assurance and quality control? What has it been like for you, and what are the experiences that you've found in this food science role that you've been in? Thank you.
Thank you so much for that lovely question. So I'd first begin by saying that food science is actually, in simple terms, it's an invisible infrastructure. So usually as a food scientist or as a quality assurance professional, you're not just testing food. We design the systems and then we allow strangers to trust strangers. Consumers outside
Yes.
there trust in a system that they cannot see.
Yes.
For example, think about it this way. When you have simple yogurt, I love dairy, so you'll see me giving a lot of examples in dairy. Usually the milk comes from the farm, and then you have the fruit or the pulp coming in from another country, and then you have the cultures of the yogurt coming in from another lab elsewhere, and then the packaging will be done in the factory. So usually in the end, this product will be packed in, it will have passed through so many different hands so that it can make a simple pack of yogurt. So without this food science, without the HACCP that Yemi has talked about, without the preservation, without the standardization of these products, the supply chain will break. So as a quality assurance professional, you're basically the glue that is holding this global system together. And something else that I would also like to touch on in regards to this question is that in quality assurance or generally in food science, success is usually silent. It is not like in other industries. For example, when Apple launches a new iPhone, the success is very loud. Everyone will know about it. But in food science, success is usually silence. When we do our job perfectly, nobody will notice. But then nobody gets sick. We know that we've done our job perfectly. When there are no complaints, we know that we've done our job perfectly. And that means that we are guardians. We are guardians of an ordinary day. That silence is our success as food scientists. So in my experience, when I worked as a quality assurance professional back in Kenya at Caritas Dairy, it was one dairy company in Kenya, a small one though, I learned a lot. And one thing that stood out for me is that the biology and the chemistry of food and of milk is very, very chaotic. Milk, for instance, usually it spoils differently depending on the cow's feed, depending on the weather, depending on how you handle this milk. A lot of factors are involved. But then, us as the food scientists, we are the ones that provide this control amidst all of this chaos to ensure that the outcome of these raw materials is safe 100% of the time. So, as a food scientist, as a quality assurance professional, you're not just protecting the product alone. You're protecting the routine of a daily life, the daily life of people, the daily life of children, old people, pregnant women, everyone in the society.
Yes.
Yeah.
So the society's hands is safe with food scientists. We need more food scientists in the society so that we're assured that our food is safe. Because without food scientists, you can't be too sure that the product is safe. That's very powerful, Lizzie. Thank you so much. Now, moving on to Francis. Francis, thank you so much for joining us today. I would like us to talk about leadership. What business or operational skills should a food scientist grab on early? And tell us, what is the one mistake that the new business players, or here we call them the small and medium enterprise players, make when they start their own food plants, and how can they avoid those mistakes?
Thank you everyone for joining. Now it's evening in lots of African countries, and depends on where you are. So here, probably the weather is very nice. The sound is not so very good. But for me, I think where I sit, I look at food science to have been a very good foundation, really, for me. There's something unique about this course, because those who have done medicine, done engineering, done lots of process. What I see is that science gives you a very wide scope. Anything around science, anything around engineering, anything around, I think the people skills, things around systems management. You find lots of those who did process even within the agriculture department where my food science program was, who did cover as wide an area as we did. So I think the fact that we've got some food engineering skills and service management, we've got some new product development, we've got some chemistry, we've got some biology, and lots of things even to do with economics and such. Open so many opportunities, and that's why when we talk about the fields where food science graduates are into, they are everywhere. But still, in the structure of the department, I still see a lot of thinking about manufacturing, academia, research. Last week, maybe 2 weeks ago, I saw an advert by the University of Zimbabwe, think Department of Food Science and something nutrition and something. And they were looking for students, I think, they were placing out some call for students to join. And what I saw was, yeah, academia, manufacturing, research. That is very, that is really good. But I think increasingly, we probably need to start talking about food science being a base. So, because majority of us don't really go into after the let's say BSc program. Lots of us don't go in the masters or into the PhD program. So the fact that only a few of us really go deep into very specific areas of, let's say, food safety or microbiology or into plant operations, we probably need to start thinking much earlier to bring in other facets. And I think the other facets I'm talking about are the soft skills, marketing, personal branding, putting out your voice out there. I think I've listened to Lizzie talk about how in the food industry, we can get something out that is very innovative. And I think we really tend to shy a lot to bring out these the way the apples of this world do. I really think now with social media and the digital skills that people have now, food scientists and food companies need to be a bit more bolder. The world is giving lots of benefits to those who are bold. If we shy off, we go back the days that things were those days when we could get out a very nice product, put it under the table. We shall probably not meet as much of the potential that we have as an industry. So for young people, I think what we do here at GFBN Africa is a bit different. For us, is we do something a bit different, really. I still remain a food technologist in my heart. Every day, I still think as a food technologist. But also, what I do think now a lot about is how to utilize our food science training. And my office here, we probably have 10 plus food technologists who don't make a food product, but what they do, they are journalists, they are analysts of news articles, they are event organizers, they are marketers who go out talk about our events. So if you read our magazines, Food Business, Food Business and Africa, La Milling, Food Business and Africa. So we run nine news sites in agriculture, in dairy, in milling, in packaging, in healthcare, now going into home and personal care, manufacturing, in feed. What we have are technical people like me and you, who now we had to bring here and really train that, you can be a communications person. And over time, we've now really, we've grown our business substantially. In our event side, whenever you want to go to events, I think it's good that if you walk into an event that is talking about food manufacturing, you meet someone who knows about food manufacturing as an organizer. And that has worked very well for us. And for us, we've really expanded the scope, and we are noisemakers. If you go to our websites, I see lots of people. I think I've seen one of our panelists here from LT Foods. I've seen him sign up to attend one of our events or something of that sort. So for us, we want the industry to be a bit bolder, even as we follow the protocols of the industry. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Francis. Before you go, I wanted to just ask, as someone who's worked with leaders in the food industry and a lot of companies in the food industry, why are food scientists important in ensuring that the manufacturing and the food sector keep running? What is the importance that you've picked up from the experience, except the media side? What are the importance of food scientists in the industry?
I think one thing that I truly do appreciate is that, and I see a lot, is that food scientists and technologists are widely accepted and appreciated in the industry. You could go to a company, however young it is, and what I meet are people who have done, who have experience in the industry, but also people who have the right grounding in science. So whether you go to, and this has really improved in time. Early days, maybe like 10, 15 years back, it wasn't really easy to get new technologies in some sectors, bakery,
Yes.
milling. The big giants had lots of talent, fluent to the big millers. The smaller medium millers really relied on who could run machines to ensure that in case of a breakdown, the plant was still running. I think that as I look into the industry, those sectors especially have really appreciated the contribution of the right skilled persons. There are sectors that by their very nature, they tend to bring in food scientists much earlier: dairy, beverage, fresh produce, because also those depend on the market. So where fresh produce, a lot of it was going into the European market, the compliance issues were coming in much earlier. And I think one thing I notice is that I see lots of food scientists who have gone into compliance, even into sectors that they are near in that space, like let's say horticulture. Nairobi here, in Kenya, we have a big horticulture industry in a town called Naivasha, around 90, 100 kilometers from Nairobi. And you see lots of food technologists who are working in flower farms. So it just shows you the study and the field is very wide. And I think with that, you find that even in areas where things were fairly weak, the milling industry has changed a lot in Africa, I can tell you. Bakeries are looking much cleaner. And it's because they got in the right people all the time.
Yes. Thank you so much, Francis, for that important highlight and reiterating and hitting on the point that 10, 15 years ago, the number of food scientists that we had compared to today is not the same. It was a struggle. It was something new, I'm sure, 20 years ago to say I'm studying food science, because people just knew you study medicine, you just study the basics in science, or you become a lab technician. And just to ask Professor Leslie, can one build a strong food science career without pursuing a PhD? Or all of us at some point have to go the PhD route?
All right, thank you. Quite an interesting question. What I think is you don't necessarily need a PhD, even you don't necessarily need even a master's. It just depends with your passion. So I think one needs to really to follow their passion. If you're into research, myself, I really like doing research. And because of that, sometimes you find that was one reason why I went for a PhD, because I need to understand research methods and all this. It wasn't really about the food itself, but it was me capacitating myself in terms of the various competencies I need in terms of doing research. I've seen a lot of my students then who are doing very well with a BSc in food science. For example, I give you new product development. You don't need a PhD to develop a new product. It's just your knowledge, foundation knowledge in food science that you to use. Maybe it's food packaging. You need to combine these ingredients and they're good to go. I have a lot of colleagues that I know they've done well with their BSc. Sometimes going for PhD, you are narrowing yourself into maybe one component of food. You might have someone who advance their academic career, then maybe they concentrate on food packaging. whilst food domain is really huge and wide, but they might concentrate on intelligent packaging. That maybe you're looking at shelf life, you're looking at packaging of milk. Once its shelf life goes past the shelf life, maybe the packaging will turn red. So they'll do a lot of research on that. So that's why I say it depends with your passion. If it's for research, yes, I will encourage someone to go deeper into it, to go further. If it's new product development, coming up with new products, you don't necessarily need to. Sometimes I advise even my students and colleagues, sometimes broaden your knowledge. You want to innovate, you want to come up with new products. You might need to know a lot about maybe marketing also, because it's not just about developing new food products, but you have a market. What are the consumer requirements? So you might need some competencies, consumer sciences and everything. So if it's you are into business, go for it. You don't need really to go further with master's, PhD. But your basic food science foundation is good, but you might need other competencies. Business management also comes into play. Allow me just to mention a few names. Leslie Marange, Glide Times Foods here in Zimbabwe, who is now going, past the Zimbabwean borders. Was one of my students then. His passion was into new product development. So you see, with BSc, of course, later on he did a master's in business studies. It is now to strengthen his business management, because once you innovate, the next thing you need to sell, the next thing you need to manage it. Then you might need competence in business management. I'm seeing two other students of mine here in Borero. She's now into certification systems and everything. Um, yeah, I've seen Wimbai. She was here, so, I think so. She's also still into food science with a BSc. So it just depends with the passion. My passion is research. I like flexibility. I don't like to do one thing at a time. Maybe I'm into quality assurance and the whole, month I'm just doing quality assurance. So one time I'm doing product development on edible insects. We are working on traditional, on our indigenous foods, Mopani worm. That's interesting. The next thing,
Wow.
next week I jump
Yes.
into a new pro. So I like that flexibility and gathering new knowledge and also spreading knowledge. But it's not everyone. So that's why I'm saying it depends with your passion. So yeah, but every level, BSc, Masters, PhD, you find room. You can create your own niche and be a champion in that niche. Yeah,
Okay,
that's what
thank
I
you
can.
so much, Professor, for that. Shout out to your students, Sushiko and Vimbai. It's so good to see you joining in. And please continue using the chat box. Send through your questions. If you have any questions to the people on our panel today, please could you just send your question when we have the Q&A session that will open to everyone. You can ask the question. Let's get a bit practical here. We've been talking about how food scientists change the world, how food scientists protect the world. We want to really have a clear picture from people that have been working in the food industry. What are the gaps that you've been picking up? We are having different students come in. I, for one, have mentored maybe over 40 food science students or food science graduates. And there are always gaps that we pick up. And what are these gaps that you've noted to say in our training? These are the gaps that we are noting in the food science students that are being trained, or even to the students coming from high school. What are the gaps that are there that need to be breached or that need to be covered? Maybe Lizzie, would you want to take this one?
Of course, thank you so much. So, I think one of the things that I've come to learn is that back in campus at the university, we are taught how to, get the answer right. For instance, when you're working on a lab report, the lecturer emphasizes on the importance of getting the answer right and being able to do and execute the practical correctly. But then at the industry level, it requires more of pragmatism. That is being able
Yes.
to get a safe solution in a messy factory. So the biggest gap that I'm
Yes.
actually seeing right now is data literacy. So when you're in school, you have like 3 hours to do a practical. At least that is what we used to have back at University of Nairobi, where I studied my food science degree. So you have the clean bakers, you have the perfect reagents. They are actually well prepared for you. But then inside the factory, for instance, the steam line just burst, or maybe the supplier has sent wrong ingredients, and then you have
Yes,
20 minutes
yes.
as the QA officer to make a decision. You are working under a lot of pressure, and I see many
Pressure.
students usually don't have the right mindset, or they do not have the right decision making skills to be able to work under this pressure. Something else is that as food scientists, we are taught a lot of chemistry and a lot of biology back in school. But then, can you be able to get the budget for a new pasteurizer approved by the board? Can you be able to translate that cost center in the quality assurance department into an opportunity? Can you be able to explain to the CEO why you need a very, very expensive high-tech analyzer for your milk?
Yes.
So being able to not only just speak the science, you're supposed to be able to know how to speak the marketing. Like Francis said, you need to know the marketing side. You don't just need to know about the food side and the science of it. You need to be able to speak business. So we
Yes.
train students. Students are trained a lot on the science part of it, but then we need to be able to learn how to speak the business side of food science. So bringing back also to the data gap, when you're at the industry, we collect a lot of data, we collect a lot of pH logs, we collect a lot of temperature
Yes.
charts and swab results. But then a lot of graduates only know how to work in the lab. But can you translate this data and build a predictive model? Can you be able to use this data to predict when a food safety mishap will occur in the production value chain?
Fantastic.
So most of the time we have a lot of data when you're at the industry. We have a lot of records in the Excel sheets, but then we only have them as a record for the past, and we are not using it as a map for the future. So it is important for us, or for students. I am a recent graduate, that's why I tend to use the word us, but then it is important that we learn that
Yes.
doing the experiments, you're only just getting the numbers. But then when you learn about, more ways to analyze this data, for instance, being able to dive deeper into learning how to use Excels, you're being able to you learn how to be able to use this data for future references, be able to use this data to predict food safety and the future of food. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Lizzie, for that. You've nailed it in the head to say we are being trained to be technical, but we are not being trained to be leaders. We are not being trained to be business owners. We are not being trained to be marketers. I know a few food scientists who've started off technical, ended up in marketing, now are in sales, and some started off technical, but now they're business owners. Moving on to the sustainability part of food, because sustainability is now a thing, it's now a necessity for you to be able to run a business. Investors want to understand, is your business sustainable? So, what is our role, us as food scientists, in ensuring that this global community that we're living in remains sustainable? I think this, Yemi, you could step in and just align the audience to say, how can food scientists help or ensure that the global space remains sustainable?
Thank you so much for that question. Now, as food scientists, we know the origin of food. Now, and we know that the planet needs to be protected. And I can see I've got a lot of people from a lot of delegates or participants from, from Kenya and different parts of the world, but I would say particularly in Kenya. Now, one of the programs we do run with the UK supermarkets or retailers, it's called the CSR, really. Corporate social responsibility and sustainability lies at at the base of that. Reaching out, making sure that what we take from the soil, we put back, and also making sure that we touch, we reduce waste in essence in here. and also the families and the people of the families of the farmers and the growers and people that produce, carrying them along. So now I know, let me take the question step by step. Sustainability, then you talked about leadership as well. And how can we diversify? As I did tell you, I've diversified into environmental, where I'm looking mainly at wastage. How do I manage the waste? How do I reduce the waste? How do I save cost on the waste? So as food scientists, what you need to look at is from field to fork, you need to think about the value you can add. Yeah. And as scientists as well, you have it at the back of your mind that you can diversify to these different, opportunities and streams um, to bring about, I would say, a sustainable and achievable, results. One of the things that we do particularly, we look at all the inputs that go into the production. Now, I've left the field for a very long time, but I still work very closely with the agronomists on the farms. I still work very closely with the farmers and the growers as well. Now, I deal mainly with farmers and growers in India at the moment. So now, sustainably, we're looking at how do we manage and sustainably, use water. So we've looked at means of, supplying water to them, recycling the water for them as well. How do we prevent water wastage during growing of the rice we produce? Those are things we're looking into. The electricity that we use to generate to do our milling processing with all our, milling factories, how do we move from, main, electricity, we are moving into solar energy. So most of our milling plants right now are dependent on that. Even the site I'm talking to you in the UK as well, we do have an option for that. Yeah. So what we're trying to look at is what we're taking out, from the atmosphere, from the earth, from the soil, from the atmosphere as well. What are we returning back into it? That's what we're actually looking into, and all of this as well. They all tie in because it will boil down to the cost at the end of the day. So there's something that happens when you supply UK retailers or let me say retailers globally. The process is called tender, or you tender. Okay, I'm going to supply you, let me say, 500 metric tons of rice at so price. So now, what we now need to follow on is that sustainability. How do we make sure? If you remember something that happened, I think it was in 2022, when we had the Ukraine and Russian war. Yeah. The price of wheat, then I was working in a bakery. Ovis is the name of that bakery company. Is a big bakery in the UK here. The price of wheat, yeah, just shut up, drastically, geometrically. You couldn't even control it. But we're very fortunate at Ovis that time because we had already tied down, we had a deal, with our suppliers at that time. So during that very scarce period of wheat, not being able to source wheat from Ukraine, because majority of the wheat that the world consumes or used in this part of the world comes from Ukraine. Yeah. Ovis had no issues because we tied down, sustainably, yeah, wheat already over 2 years that, okay, we've signed the contract. So beginning of every growing season, we do it. We have a rolling plan. So again, this is going back to that, doing things sustainably. Now, the reason why I'll put a bit especially for those of us in Africa, I used to work in a company that we source munch peas from Zimbabwe, and we source sugar snap peas from Zimbabwe as well. We source sugar snap peas, then we were sourcing also sweet potatoes as well from Zimbabwe. Now from Kenya, all our fine beans will come in from Kenya. But the things we worked with them is, moving in from reducing the level of pesticide that we put into the soil, because it goes straight into the soil, the pesticide, yeah, and it goes straight into the groundwater system as well. Now, also the processing will help. For instance, I'll use rice as an example right now. Aflatoxins. Aflatoxins, by the time it comes out, into food and you eat it, it builds up in your body, it can result into cancer. So again, managing the input we use in growing, it's helping us, to produce and grow sustainably. So you are going to think about water. You're going to think about the pesticides they're going to be applying. You understand? Now, are some pesticides needed or not? Yeah. And also, by the time you do that, the transportation as well, it's important as well. And the processes. For instance, I'm going to fumigate rice right now. I'll fumigate in transit. Although I'm going to check when I get to the UK as well. Are the insects or storage pest insects, are they dead in there? So you are looking at different aspects just to make sure that you add value to the chain, the supply chain, to the product as well, and come out with the best possible price. Because I won't deceive you, the competition is really tight. Then also, it's an added value when you grow sustainably, meaning reducing the quantity of, detrimental, I would say, pesticide you had to grow the product, and also reducing the water usage, saving on electricity, reducing on the waste. For instance, one big project we're doing in the UK is making sure all our packaging material are recyclable. So every time we have it, we take it back, is recycled again, it comes back into the system, reducing the waste for us at the end of the day and the impact on the environment as well. Did I get your question right, Titi?
Yes, you did. I was speaking and my mic was on mute.
Okay.
You really unpacked that for us. You've really given us a real picture of how sustainability can come in food science. I, for one, have a bit of experience with sustainability. You realize that the way the world is changing, the climate change, it's got an impact on our food. It's got an impact on the harvest, the drought, the flash floods. All that has got an impact on the outcome of our crops, also an impact on the disease that is in the communities. For example, most areas after having floods and heavy rains, the next thing it's a cholera outbreak, and all that has an impact on nutrition. It has an impact on health. There's an impact on our fruits and veg, our markets. So yes, sustainability is really, really important, and it's a field that I would recommend a food scientist to pursue because it is the future of the world. Our comment section and our chat box is buzzing. I'm seeing there are a few questions, but before we get into those questions, I would like Francis Juma to come in and share a bit on the marketing aspect and the food business aspect, because we've heard a lot of technicalities from Lizzie. We've got a technical point from Yemi, but now we want to fully understand from the business side of things. Um, when we're looking at operations and leadership, what is it that companies can do to ensure that there's continuity in their businesses when it comes to retention for food scientists?
Okay, thank you, and welcome back. I think one of the key things I realized around being technical is that it's difficult to think non-technical. And I think that works very well for food technologists. Maybe I just wanted to make one small point around entrepreneurship. I think it's one area that it's been glorified and it looks very nice. So either you feel the sector, they say food, you can never fail with food whenever you go into entrepreneurship. I really think that there is a real need to have more entrepreneurs in the food industry who have some food training, who have some science training, who have some experience in the industry. And I've seen that it's no longer that it's just some entrepreneur who can be able to wake up and run, who ends up being an entrepreneur in the food industry. I do think that eventually when you have lots of entrepreneurs having some experience, some technology behind them, things will be much, much better for the industry. But I do feel that what stops lots of us getting into entrepreneurship is that as food technologists, we think technically. I like the kind of work that NT Foods is doing, working with farmers, getting in the rice, ensuring that it meets all the requirements, looking for a market. whether it's in the UK or wherever it is that they're able to sell their produce. The many times I sit down with food technologists like myself, we are thinking of, these meatless, meat stuff, things that have 30% protein. We are thinking of things that maybe need to be eaten by NASA astronauts when they are up in space. So there's probably that kind of training that gives us this area we really need to make totally highly nutritious beyond wonder. Things that, I don't know, we kind of think of the next food items that are probably not yet here. But you know what?
Yes.
See, with the 8 billion people in this world, the 2 billion that we are talking about, the 2.5 by 2050, what we need are basic, good quality, nicely packaged, safe rice, potato,
Yeah.
shima, we need carpenter, things that are African, things that can be converted, that people know. I know there's a lot of chapati and wheat products.
Yeah.
But really, to me,
Yeah.
if as food technologists, we can simplify life and just avail regular food products to consumers, I'm sure there will be more entrepreneurs in the food space without trying to complicate it. Now, on to your question. Yeah, the world is changing, and I think there's something that I kind of fear. A broad subject matter area like food science and technology, so it gives you such a wide scope that lots of us think we can be experts in everything. I think 20-something years out of university, I've really realized that I might have known quite a bit in terms of food safety, microbiology, food engineering, chemistry, and all these things. But the challenge with food science is also that once you are out here and it's 5-10 years down the line, either you go very deep, like one of our panelists has talked about it into MSc, into PhD, so that you really get an area where you are an expert in. But what I realized that it's very easy for me to say I'm an expert in food safety. And very easily to say I'm an expert in food innovation. I'm an expert in food microbiology. We've turned ourselves into general experts who probably have no experience. I think some expertise can come out of experience. I can work in the meat industry for so long that I probably have a very fair view of what's going on. And you know what it means? If I work 20-30 years in the meat industry, it means that my knowledge on the dairy sector starts kind of getting a bit less. My expertise in fruits and veg area is really going off. If I walk into a mill that is milling wheat, I probably don't know which one is a sifter, which one is a roller mill. So let's not try to turn ourselves into experts, even as this sector is wide. I would suggest two things. Either you become a general person like myself here, or you become a specialist in a particular area. Let's not cheat ourselves that we can be experts for this long. Thank you.
Wow. This is a masterclass. I just hope we could have gone all day talking about food science and everything that we can do with our food science skills, because I feel people are always misinformed to paint us with the same brush when there is so many colors that can come out of a food science career. This has been a masterclass, and before we move to our Q&A, I want a lightning round. One sentence from you, Francis. Why should one choose a career in food science?
I think one word is broad, and it opens many doors to you. I don't think, if I did medicine, I would have as many choices as I do. No, I did, when I was going to university, doctors used to work out of class in hospitals. In Kenya here now, the government is not going to do it. So they're like us. But for us, this happened much, much earlier. When you walked out of
Yeah.
university, there was no job in government. So, but I think I see, even just this year, I still see young people who are getting jobs, whether in the multinational or small company, in other sectors. It's a very wide area that gives you,
Yeah.
opens a lot of opportunities. So maybe that could be my one. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Francis. And Lizzie, would you want to tell us why should one choose a career in food science?
In one sentence, I'd say that one should choose a career in food science because food science is the only career where the work that you do intimately touches the life of every single person around the planet at least 2 or 3 times a day.
Thank you so much, Lizzie, for that. That's quite profound. And Professor Leslie, would you want to tell us why should someone make a decision to pick food science if they're on the verge of making a career choice?
Right. I think food science is that one field whereby you can be a lot of things. You can be a food scientist, you can be an entrepreneur, you can be a business person, you can be in the lab. So the flexibility in food science is huge. And also, lastly, I was going to say food science is just a career. It's a responsibility. Remember the health of the
Yes,
people and all these things in the
yes.
food system. So we have a big role to play. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Professor, for that. Thank you for reminding us that we are in charge of people's health and whatever we do has got an impact on someone's life. So being a food scientist, you're a guardian. You're supposed to do the correct thing. And Yemi, what's your thoughts on why one should pick a career in food science?
I think my own submission would be you are saving lives. Yeah. You're saving families, you're saving homes and source
Mhm.
of livelihoods. Because um, and one thing I would say, I would like to state on this platform is the fact that Africa is the future of the world.
Mm,
Wherever part of the world people are, you understand? Because if you've lived in Africa and you've lived outside Africa, you will understand what I'm saying because of the vast fertile
mm.
land we've got, the
Yes.
varieties of food that we grow. Yeah. So we're
Mm,
actually saving the world. So as a food scientist, you are saving the world. And
yeah.
in different parts of the world that they are not as blessed as Africa, you understand? Some of them have in Canada right now, some parts of Canada have only sun 3 months out of 12 months of the year. Um, they are dependent on us. So, for instance, if today we go to Nairobi Airport and say there's no flight coming out of Nairobi Airport, Britain will starve. Yeah, Europe will starve. You understand? Or you go to, the Harare Airport or African airports, even Egyptian. They'll say, okay, there shouldn't be any flight going out of Africa with food. The world will starve.
Mm.
That's what I'm going to say. So what I'm encouraging you is that you are
Wow.
saving the world. You are saving life. That's what I'm going to
Wow.
say from my own side.
Thank you
That's it
so
for me.
much, Yemi.
Yeah.
I feel very important right now, and I feel very lucky to be an African food scientist because I'm not only serving the world, but I'm in a continent that is serving the world. So
Yeah.
kudos to all food scientists in the house. And my key takeout is being in food science is not just a title. It's no longer just a job. It's a responsibility. It's a responsibility to serve. It's a responsibility to take care of people's health. And I want to thank the panel. And now I'd like to ask everybody who's got a question to type in their question in the chat box. Already, I'm seeing there are a few questions. I'll pick just a few that I'll ask the panel to respond to. The first question is from Chantal. She says, I'm a recent graduate with a strong interest in nutrition. Could you please advise on suitable master's programs in institutions outside Zimbabwe as I'm unsure which specialization to choose? Yemi, would you want to respond to that one?
Okay. Sorry. Yes, I would love to respond to that. Now,
Thank you.
I would suggest if there are a lot of scholarships, yeah, for international students. I would like you to access that as well. Masters in nutrition, and if you don't mind adding another bit to it, especially
Mm,
something to do with diets would help, because in this part of the world right now, they are just getting to understand and realize that what you eat can impact your health negatively. So we've got the McDonald's here, we've got the KFC, a lot of processing places that, you don't even need to cook anything yourself. But now the problem is now working with people on how to manage the calories they eat, yeah, to bring them to help them with their health. So I would say masters in nutrition. I finished from the University of Teesside, yeah, and I know the quality there. I can assure you there are a lot of universities in the UK. I would recommend Teesside to you because if you look at budget scholarship, there's a lot of balance in there as well. Now, there are top schools as well, like Cambridge, Oxford, Imperial College. Yeah, there are a lot of schools out there. But I would say then also in Scandinavian countries, you can go and study for free. But getting a job after you finish can be quite tough. Yeah, that's what. But there are vast opportunities for international students. What I would say is think broadly, think beyond Africa. Yeah. For instance, the first time I visited Kenya while I was in the UK. I visited Gambia while I was in the UK. I visited Zimbabwe, Zambia, Senegal when I was in the UK. You understand? I didn't go from Nigeria, my home country, to all those countries. And I don't even think being in Nigeria, I won't go there. You understand what I'm trying to say now? So think outside. There are a lot of opportunities, there are a lot of scholarships. Look for scholarships, please. Yeah, and
yes.
go for masters in food in human nutrition. I would say human nutrition
Hmm.
because the focus now is on humans. Yeah, we have issues with diabetes right now. They are cutting people's limbs because of diabetes. Can be reversed naturally. Yeah, if you eat right. Yeah, and this is where your human nutrition and diet, something to study with diet is going to help. So that's what I'm going to advise you.
Thank you so much, Yemi. I'm sure Chantel has been taking notes and has taken note of all the things that you've said, the scholarships you've recommended, and the diversification from just nutrition to dietetics, and to
Yeah.
broaden that scope and focus on the issues that we are going to have in the future, given the obesity examples you've already given. I'm seeing
Yeah.
a question or a hand raised up from Mary Queen. Mary Queen, would you like to take the podium and ask away?
Okay, thank you so much. Please confirm you can hear me.
Yes,
Yes,
we
we
can
can.
hear you.
All right, thank you. I want to first thank our guest speakers. Thank you, Professor Leslie. Thank you, Mr. Yemi. Thank you, Miss Lizzie and Mr. Francis. We're so honored to have you all today. Okay, my question is more on the technical aspects. So I don't know if it will kind of require Professor Leslie and Mr. Yemi to give input. I have a background in microbiology, and I've been in the quality control field a short while. Let me call it short while, just a couple of years. But afterward, actually migrated into technology full time. I'm currently a cloud and DevOps engineer, but my flair, my passion for the food industry has not declined, and I'm trying to find my way back through a master's program. But right now, it seems I'm kind of lost. How can I connect my current pathway, my current career path, because I still don't want to let go of the cloud and DevOps engineering role. Well, how can I bridge both of them? How can I merge my interest in the food industry, in food science, with my background in microbiology and my current career path? Is there actually a bridge to have all this, or will I have to let go of one and focus on the on any of them?
I'll let the professor go
Professor,
first.
would you want
Then
Yeah,
yeah.
Professor?
All right, sorry, I missed something. Your current role is what? I know the first was a microbiologist. The current role, what
Yeah.
did you say?
My current role is cloud and DevOps engineering in the IT
Okay,
department, the IT field.
All right, that's fine. So now you find we are going, the topical issue now is on food systems. Food systems encompass everything. You're talking about your plant production, food processing, post-harvest, value addition, nutrition, and everything. So, and I've seen a lot of degree programs now coming up, masters in food systems and nutrition, food systems and something. I would advise maybe going for something broad like that because you are able to combine the different sort of competencies or your food micro or your microbiology and your cloud and technology, etc. So that way now, because you find within the food system, your technology aspect will come in, your cloud aspect will come in, your microbiology still will come in because there's an element of safety. So I'll recommend for that if you're looking for a master's, go for something which is a bit broad, your food systems, because they're going to cover the various stages within your food value chain. Yeah, I think that's can be my response on that one.
Thank you so much, Professor. And Yemi, do you have anything to add? I
So,
think she mentioned
yes,
she
I have
wants your
some.
input.
Yes, I have something to add. The professor has laid a solid foundation, advising on that food systems, which is a new, master's degrees coming up recently. But I would tie what professor has said also to what Lizzie mentioned. If you remember, when Lizzie did speak earlier about the skills required, he was talking about, managing data. So now, and being able to interpret and analyze the data. So to her, from a microbiology, makes her a technical person. So she's a full-fledged technical manager because she can assess food safety risks and control food safety risks. And that's what all food safety is all about. So from a microbiological aspect, she knows what pathogenic microorganisms are. She knows what hygiene indicators are. So she knows how to prevent and to control that. So that's a tick for her. So her microbiology is not wasted because that's going to give her a hedge, in the industry. Then the secondly, now what we are doing right now in the food industry, what's happening, even before the advent of AI, we've been building different systems. Now, most of our what's it called right now, record keeping are now done, are now automated. We've left, recording inspections and recording on sheets of paper. We now use tablets, and
Yeah.
most of the even actually we do audits on tablets right now as well. There's iAuditor. There are a lot of platforms out there that you just do the data inputs, it's going to analyze the data for you. So our cloud, our current line also fits in. Now, by the time she does the food system and with her knowledge of microbiology and her system, she can even build hacks herself, so which can actually enrich her. And that also put her she has two edges ahead of other people right now. One is microbiology, the second is the cloud-based, because she'll be able to analyze data, she'll be able to store data, interpret data, communicate data as well at different levels. So I agree to that food systems that Professor has suggested for her.
Okay, thank you
Thank you
so
so much.
much.
Thank you so much, Yemi, for responding to the question. Moving on to our questions, there is one question here that says, I am, okay. I would like to ask Professor Leslie that does pursuing your master's and PhD after completing your undergraduate studies ideal, or one must feel must have a feel of the industry first?
All right, so I think I'll say it depends. Um, so after my undergraduate, I went into industry. I worked for almost 8 years and went for my master's. What I noticed is as I was doing my master's, even doing my PhD, they were a bit easy because being in industry, you start noticing a lot of issues. Where are the gaps and how to apply what you have learned during undergraduate. And in my class, so I went for masters at 32. I was in my class, we had some students with 21, which just went straight into from BSc into masters. So they didn't have the practical experience of maybe why we are learning certain subjects. But now, me coming from industry, I could relate.
Yeah.
So even the examples and everything, even doing my master's
Yes.
thesis project, coming up with the concept note and everything, it was easy to identify a real challenge in the food industry. Same as PhD, I
Yeah.
worked on post-harvest losses. All these came from my experience at the Grain Marketing Board, where I seeing a lot of post-harvest losses in grain, post-harvest handling and everything. So it was an added advantage. Then again, what I've noticed also, going straight from BSc, Master's, PhD, that would be good. You finish your PhD maybe at 26 or so, you are a doctor. But going back into the food industry, maybe in an interview, you're competing with someone with industrial experience.
Yeah.
Then you find most will get straight into academia because you don't have industrial experience. So that's why I started by saying it depends. Do you want to be an academic? If you want to be an academic, it's fine. Go straight. If you want to go back into industry, it might be a bit challenging. Yeah, and it depends with which type of industry. So if you want to go into research industries, it will be fine. You can go straight, then back uh, into the research industry or straight into academia. So, but also what I would encourage, I should add on to your question, is even with BSc or masters, try to also do some professional courses. So what I did is when I was doing my BSc biological sciences, I did my quality state and guilds quality assurance. So I did a professional course. It always gives you an added advantage because your BSc, Masters, and PhD, all these are academic qualifications. But at age now in today's world, you need also professional qualifications. There are a lot of even free courses you can find on LinkedIn or everywhere, business management, or you go for certification in some of these food systems management, is HACCP or something, as you are pursuing your academic career. That way you open doors, depending whether you want to go into industry, still you have an added advantage. You have academic qualification, you have professional qualification. Even if you have a PhD, still you have a professional qualification. So I always urge everyone to, if you start your BSc, enroll for other professional courses. They are very important. They will come handy somewhere, even if you progress to your masters. So it depends. Myself, I enjoyed the industrial experience. It helped shape me in terms of even when making decisions or choices of elective courses to do. Okay, fine. In industry, I noticed food safety is interesting, so I'll do electives on food safety. If you go direct, you don't have that knowledge, sort of. Yeah, I think that's how I can answer that question.
Thank you so much, Professor, for clarity there. I think our audience now is able to make a decision to say, do I want to be in academia? Do I want to study because I want to deepen my knowledge and understanding in this particular industry? So moving on, I think this is the second from last question from Peter. He says, personally, I'm passionate about dairy, and in that case, animal-based. So my question is, are plant-based products a threat to animal-based dairy products in the future? I don't know if Lizzie wants to take this together with Francis.
That's a really good question, and it's something that has also caught my eye as well as someone who is very passionate about dairy. I'd say that plant-based products are they're a threat to volume, but then it's an opportunity for value. Usually I would give an analogy. A long time ago, people used to use horses and animals as a form of transport. But then when the vehicles came, the transportation got better, right? So it is not a matter of who is better than the other. It is a matter of evolution, you know. Animal agriculture is being challenged right now to become more efficient, but then we also need to become more sustainable and more premium. But then on the other hand, the plant-based right now, from what I read, the research work and what is currently ongoing, the plant-based products, they're being challenged to taste better and to become cleaner as to compared to their counterparts. So I'd say that in the end, this war, quote unquote, between plant-based and animal products, it's usually, in the end, it's about the consumer. The winner is the
Yes.
consumer that gets the better option. So the only companies that are threatened by this plant-based evolution are companies that are refusing to innovate. So that is usually my take on the plant-based versus the animal-based products.
Okay, interesting. And Francis, any comments on that or any contribution you'd like to make on that question? Okay, moving on to the last question. We've got two entrepreneurs that are in the chat box, and their questions are very similar. So I'll just summarize both questions. One is an aspiring entrepreneur in the meat sector, and their question is, what key pathways drive business growth while building consumer trust and awareness? And the second entrepreneur, who is a recent graduate from Cameroon in biotechnology and food process engineering, they say they've launched a startup on transforming tomato fruits into tomato paste. How do they maintain quality and yet become profitable? So this I will give it to Francis. Okay. Yemi, would you like to take up the question?
Yes, I would like to take
Thank
up the
you.
question. So usually, you need to have a unique selling point. Anytime you are putting products into the market. And this is where the quality will now come into place because there should be something that sort of make your products to stand out. Yeah. And again, from food science perspective, your quality, it's your people buy, they pay more for quality. Now, this is where product development will now come in. So the product you are selling, what sort of level of development have you taken the product through? So what sort of benchmarking have you done? People that produce similar products, have you collected their products? Have you assessed it against your product? Do you have a sort of like a taste panel? How does your food or your product taste? You know, what's the level of customer satisfaction with your food? Because at the end of the day, that will be your unique selling point for that product. Now, I would advise you to invest on systems. Yeah. But I know as an entrepreneur and as a business owner, you now need to sit down because I've worked with various businesses, but I think one business that does it the best is Wilmore Limited. Now, my chairman will tell me, okay, Yemi, okay, I'll invest in that machine, but she'll calculate how long it's going to take. She doesn't go into debt at all. She doesn't borrow any money. You understand? And she'll just say, okay, how long is it going to take me if I buy the machine? How long will it take the machine to pay back? You understand? So she will invest in the machine. So as a business owner, you will know all of this. So you need to look at what's your throughput, or let me say, how many packs would your machine produce per minute when you've agreed on the product that you are running. Then your next step will be your marketing. Yeah. How do you market the product? Yeah. What are the marketing, tales or sales that will go through? I was watching something. I think I watched it on LinkedIn as well. There was a woman, a seller of fruits that she carries fruit and sell. Then later, is that me? Did I put up my hand? I think that must be
Yeah, I
a
think you
mistake.
did an error.
Oh, okay. Okay, maybe it's reading. I think the camera is reading my movement. Then she
Okay.
now employed a lady, pretty lady, well dressed, and put same on the head because we sell stuff on the head in back home in Nigeria. and she went into traffic. So the pretty young lady, nicely dressed, she sold all her products. Guys just went there buying. It's a marketing strategy at the end of the day. So you need to understand your marketing and strategy. Then lastly, I will tell you to please understand your customers. The customer is the king. What does your customer need? You need to make sure that your customer will come in, buy something from your shelf, and will come back again. What is it that's going to make your customer to come back the next time to buy your product? Yeah, that's what you need to make that product point. Then to the guy from Cameroon, it's really good. I'm really happy to hear this, that because usually I think one of the challenges we have in that part of the world, because Cameroon is a neighboring country to Nigeria, is the wastage. We sell most of our tomatoes fresh, yeah, which is good.
Yeah.
It is really brilliant, yeah. However, you try to make it into paste, which is beautiful. So what I would say is that because you need to go into some development, okay, I wouldn't want to say, okay, put chemicals in. We need to look out for inputs that we can use, preservatives that are possibly natural preservatives. You understand? You've got a lot of shelf life. I don't know how you've calculated your shelf life. You understand to do. Then also you need to sort of know, you need to carry out trials and keep and see samples. Then now one thing we do have in the food industry, it's been there for a long time, is you can extrapolate and say, okay, how long is this going to last? How long is it going to take? Then you take it to the lab. You do your sensory analysis, you do your microbiological analysis, also you do your chemical analysis as well, and you even need to do some to test for some metals in there as well. If you do all of that at each point, at each gate, over the life of the product, you know how safe the product is for human consumption. So, but your sensory analysis at each stage will help you to say, okay, how does it taste? So that by the time you put your shelf life, best before so date on it, we know, okay, before that date, this is what you're going to be having. Yeah. But my strategy to you is that look for the latest or the most, proficient, I would say, within your budget for the machine that will do it into the paste. Yeah. And invest in a team. Yeah. The best resource any business will have with the human resource. The team that understands the subject you are looking at and how to preserve it. But I'm really impressed because it's all about preserving the product. Yeah, because you'll be able to get fresh tomatoes from customers. You'll be able to wash, clean it through your process, sanitize proper, possibly. Then you'll be able to now, automate reduce the size and turn it into paste. Yeah. But what I would say is focus on the preservatives, focus on the content. What you don't want is at the end of the day, your paste will either cause people to be sick or illness in the future. So again, boils down to quality. But I would say invest in the human resource, people that know the subject matter. Look for food scientists, food technologists, and people that can help you and support you to deliver your dream.
Thank you so much, Yemi, for that. And it's some career guidance and some business leadership that you've demonstrated right there. And as we draw tonight's session to a close, I would like to thank our incredible panelists once again. You've shown us that food science is not just a career of the past, but it's now a more strategic career of the future. However, we know that inspiration without a map can lead to a dead end. Many of you are asking, where do I start, or how do I find a mentor in this field, or the experts that I've met today? That is exactly why the Global Food Business Network, we are more than just a network, but we are here to bridge the gap between the classroom and the boardroom. I'm excited to announce that we are officially opening applications for our GFBN mentorship program because we've realized the gaps. Lizzie, Francis, Yemi, and Professor Leslie spoke about tonight: the leadership skills, the industry know-how, the best learned through direct connection with the veterinarians who already walked the path. Here is what you need to do next. Please follow us on LinkedIn, search for Global Food Business Network, and we'll be posting the registration link for the mentorship program first thing tomorrow morning. Then join our community. If you haven't already done that, sign up for our mailing list, join our WhatsApp channel, and you get your regular updates there. The next step is don't just leave this Zoom and go back to business as usual. Pick one trend that Yemi has talked about or that Francis has talked about and make that your focus point for the next 30 days. At GFBN, we believe that food is a collaborative common, and together we are not just building careers, but we are securing the global food system. Thank you so much for your energy, for your brilliant questions, and for your commitment to this industry. My name is Titi Mutanga, and it's been an absolute honor to host you tonight. Have a fantastic evening, and we'll see you in the network. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.